Hi, this is Shelley Kraft. I'm coming to you live on SNN Live. We're at the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium, Vancouver 2014. Standing next to me is Bill Holter of Miles Franklin. He's an associate writer, a metals specialist, and a speaker at this conference. Welcome to SNN Live.
Good to be here, Shelley.
It's good to have you. Bill, you're at a metals conference. You must be somebody in the metals world. Tell me about yourself.
Well, I was a stockbroker for 23 years, and I built a very large physical gold, physical silver, and mining share position, and retired in 2006. We left the country late 2006 based on I thought we needed to get out. We lived in Costa Rica for almost 5 years, and I believe that mathematically we're going over the edge in the banking system. And my thought process, my family's thought process was living in Costa Rica, not being Costa Ricans, was not going to be a safe place. So we moved back to Texas and live with Texans.
Well, there's nothing bad about Texas.
Not at all.
But everything's big in Texas, right?
That's true.
So now, my question is, what do you bring to Miles Franklin? What's your connection to it?
As I mentioned, I retired in 2006. I kept some clients from the brokerage business, and I was writing a blog. And Miles Franklin came across my writings. They've been published at La Metropole with Bill Murphy. Harvey Organ has picked them up. Jim Sinclair has posted maybe 30, 35 of my articles over time, which is a real feather in my cap. I write about the macro economy, and basically try to connect dots for people. We hear various news, but they're all isolated. And I try to connect the dots as to what the various happenings are, what the likely outcome will be.
So in other words, well, give me an example, for instance. Let's say interest rates. How
Okay.
about that?
Well, for instance, we know that we've had QE for the last 3 or 4 years. One of the problems with QE was that it was sucking out too much collateral. The Federal Reserve was purchasing too many Treasury bonds. It was not leaving collateral for the banking system to leverage, to margin, to lend against. So we pretty much knew that QE had to be wound down because from a nuts and bolts standpoint, they couldn't keep doing it because they wouldn't leave the system with any collateral. Mm-hmm. That's on the one hand. But on the other hand, they've got to keep doing it. Otherwise, interest rates will spike. Well, the way they did that was all of a sudden we now know that there's $450 billion bulge in Belgium. Well, who's that? It's a proxy. It's a Fed proxy. So, I mean, I write about things like that. That's kind of uncovering.
Well, if it's
it's like sleuth work.
If it's 450 billion in Belgium,
Right.
What is it in China?
China, I believe, is 3.2 trillion, something like that. They own us.
Yeah. So they're holding our debt.
Yes, they are our banker.
Yeah. So we owe them a lot of money.
Correct.
So if anything happens, they could foreclose on America, couldn't they?
I believe they've been foreclosing.
How's that?
Well, you've seen for the last few years that China has been taking 1,500 to 2,000 tons per year of physical gold. The world only produces 2,700 tons. 400 is by China and 100 billion by Russia. They don't sell those on the open market. That leaves 2,200 tons. If China's taking 2,000 tons, they're taking the entire world's production with a gun to our head. And my opinion is one of two events is going to happen to make this go terminal. Either China does not get delivered gold and they pull the plug, or quite likely Saudi Arabia is going to say, we will accept currency other than dollars for oil. Once you hear that, once you hear an announcement from Saudi Arabia, and they have had top meetings for the last 6 or 8 months with both China and Russia, but we never heard anything afterwards. We never heard a statement. It leads me to believe that there was some type of deal made. And Saudi Arabia making an announcement that they will accept something other than dollars, that'll be the last straw for the dollar. It's
So
dollar negative.
now I'm going to segue to Miles Franklin.
Okay.
How does Miles Franklin fit into what your investment perspective is?
We sell crash insurance, if you want to call it that. Gold and silver, we're a coin dealer. We sell any type of bullion, whether you want it to be eagles or maples or philharmonics or what have you. But gold and silver are money. They're real money. In a financial collapse and with $1.4 quadrillion, that's with a Q, of derivatives outstanding, it's only a matter of time before the banking industry, the financial industry collapses. Gold and silver are real money. They will be the last man standing.
So how does the valuation of owning precious metals commodity coins give you that insurance policy based on valuation? Is it a face value? Is there an incremental value when the dollar goes to pot? Is it, if it's a dollar, let's say it's $100 coin today.
Okay.
If the market goes upside down and you don't have the ability to spend dollars anymore,
Right.
how does the face value of the coin,
It's not about face value.
It's about leverage,
weight.
right?
It's about weight.
Weight.
Yeah.
Aha. You
It's
see,
about how
that's
many ounces. It's going to be how many ounces do you have? I'm a firm believer that you should have one bag of junk silver for every person in the household because silver will spend. If you have no precious metals at all, you start with silver, you move to real wealth, into gold, and if you have some speculative money, you put it into mining shares.
mining shares like some of the companies
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
The ones that are resource, let's say exploration companies,
Well,
or
you can go across the board. You can look at some seniors. You can look at the juniors, the exploration companies. Just diversify across the mining share board.
now you had a Q&A part of your. Were you in the Q&A sessions
Yeah.
that they ran? So when you were in that session, what was the one question that came up that sticks out in your mind as a key question, and what was your answer?
Probably the most surprising question was regarding the FATCA rules. FATCA obviously is the United States demanding that U.S. citizens and foreign institutions report, but it seemed to me that there were a lot of people that weren't really up on that, and that's a dangerous thing because if you don't report, there are some very serious fines.
Really? Explain.
If you have an account overseas, non-U.S. Based, of over $10,000, you've got to report. You have to report that every year. I believe it's June 30th. You have to report that. If you don't report that, the fines are quite heavy. I even had heard of a person who had $1 million account, and because they had never reported it over the last 4 years, which is when the reporting was necessary, they have a $5 million fine. I don't know if that's completely true or not, but that's just something I heard, and that was, to me, that's surprising.
Doesn't matter. It's drastic.
Right.
Now, what are you writing these days?
People ask me how I pick a subject to write about. Basically, I can sit down, watch the TV, watch CNBC for 5 minutes, and point at the TV and say, I call bullshit. That's how I pick a subject. And it's so easy to do because there's so much stuff that, 2 plus 2 never equals 4 anymore. And it has to equal 4. And that's my writing style, is I'm very frank. and try to break things down to nuts and bolts.
So to get your information, what website would you like to send our audience to?
We have a free daily newsletter. We write 5 times a week. You can go to www.milesfranklin.com. There are 3 writers, and it is one of the best newsletters because you get, it doesn't cost you anything, but you've got some pretty good writers.
That's Bill Holter, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNN Live. We're coming to you from the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium, Vancouver, 2014. Bill, what a pleasure.
It was a pleasure, Shelley.
Thanks for coming on.